I'm always delighted to be with Saul News. This has been such a leader in the conservative movement and the Republican Party.
Welcome to the Saul's Newsstand News Rewind for November 17th, 2023. Just the News reports, Senate passes stopgap spending bill, but clash to shrink government lingers after holidays. The Senate easily passed a stopgap spending bill in bipartisan fashion late Wednesday, averting a federal shutdown for the holidays, but setting up a historic clash early in the new year over shrinking government. Senators voted 87-11 to approve the plan and send it to President Joe Biden, who's expected to sign it. 10 Republicans and 1 Democrat voted against the measure. House Speaker Mike Johnson has set in motion a novel 2-tier plan to fund the government with separate spending bills in January and February, which will force the Senate to end years of practice of funding the entire government with omnibus legislation. Speaker Johnson said the approach would give his chamber leverage to finally force a deal to address the insecure border and cut spending, like Republicans promised when they ran and won control of the House last year. The Hill reports, Manchin considering leaving Democratic Party. Senator Joe Manchin suggested on Wednesday that he is considering leaving the Democratic Party in comments made just a week after he announced he would not seek re-election to the Senate. During an interview on CNN, anchor Caitlin Collins pressed the West Virginia senator on whether he was thinking about leaving the party after expressing disdain for what he called the business of politics.
That kind of makes it sound like, are you going to leave the Democratic Party?
Well, you know, I don't know if I've never considered myself a Washington Democrat. I've been a very independent person, and I don't really think that should have.
That sounds like you're leaving.
Well, no, you have a D or an R by your name or an I by your name. It shouldn't identify who you are. If you change who you are because you have a D, then you have an R, or you have an I, people go back and forth. It's more for the person's political, I think, than more for who the person is. No matter what I have by me, I'm an independent thinking. I vote independently, and I've always done that for 40 years. So we'll see. I know what you're saying, but we'll see. I haven't gotten there yet.
But you're still considering that?
Sure. You always consider that. Absolutely.
Is it likely that you're going to leave the Democratic Party?
And I'm sure they'd be happy. They might throw me out, so who knows?
Manchin, who has held his seat since 2010, has long been considered the most vulnerable Senate Democrat ahead of the 2024 presidential election. And finally, CBS News reports, New Hampshire's first in the nation 2024 primary will be held on January 23rd. New Hampshire Secretary of State David Scanlon on Wednesday announced New Hampshire's 2024 primary will be January 23rd, 2024, ending months-long speculation and controversy involving President Biden, the Democratic National Committee, and state officials. For more than 100 years, New Hampshire has traditionally held the first primary election in the country, a point of pride for the small New England state, and since 1975, the state has had a law requiring it be held at least a week before any other primary nominating contest. President Biden's re-election campaign informed New Hampshire Democrats in late October that Biden would not be filing to appear on the state's primary ballot, making him the first sitting president to be left off. And that concludes your Saul's Newsstand News Rewind for November 17th, 2023. For more political news faster, visit saulsnews.com.